the next speaker we have is Mr. Paul Jurčys. So he's an IP and data privacy lawyer based in San Francisco, co-founder at Prifina, a company which builds tools to empower individuals with their private data. He is also a teaching fellow at Harvard's Copyright X course and a member of International Law Association Committee of IP and Private International Law. So thank you very much for being here with us today, especially taking into account that it's probably like 6 a.m. in the morning in your time zone, right?
Yes, it's 3 a.m.
a.m. Okay.
Can you see my slides, Migla?
I can see the whole desktop, but I'm not sure what all the audience may see. Probably the same that I do. So
yeah, good. I think that should work.
Yep. Now we see it. Yeah.
Yes. Thanks a lot as well on my side for this opportunity to speak here today. I'm very pleased and delighted to be here with you. So let me start by raising a general question to all of you. So if you could recreate a data ecosystem from scratch, what would it look like? Would no access to your data be a default? Would no sharing of your data be a default setting? Nowadays, much of our personal data and our browsing history, purchasing, and online history ends up in the hands of developers and data brokers who are able to create a 360-degree view or 360-degree profile of us. And this debate, whether we should have more data or more privacy, is not new. It has a long history, but it has reached recently new heights where Apple is trying to introduce iOS 14, which would require app developers get exclusive prior permission from users before app can actually track what individuals are doing. From individual consumer point of view, the present situation has been quite eloquently described by US Senator David Cicilline, who was leading the antitrust hearing in last September. And the congressman described the situation as follows, that everyday Americans are learning how much of their data is being mined, and they cannot run away fast enough. In many cases, there is no escape from this surveillance because there is no alternative, and people are stuck without options. And if you haven't been really following the most recent debate and clash between Apple and Facebook executives, let me share one thought. It seems that these two companies and big technology companies anticipate that they will remain in such dominant positions in the next decade or so. So we can observe three major shifts in the market nowadays. It was already widely discussed that data privacy regulations have introduced new privacy rights and also imposed some principles and requirements how data is processed, namely minimization, portability. I would like to stress here that one important and probably unintended consequence of GDPR and CCPA could be the fact that personal data that is held by big technology service providers could be unlocked based on this right to get a copy of personal data. We have also seen how businesses are trying to grapple with the amounts of data they have, map it out and comply with the requirements. But also more importantly, businesses and service providers are trying to find new ways how to utilize that data to provide better value for their customers. We have also seen the emergence of technologies such as machine learning and edge computing that enable large data storage locally and local data processing. This is a really important thing that is happening in the background that probably we as individual consumers don't really see. So it is inevitable that there will be more data generated in the future. Just think of all of the sensors and tracking devices, smart watches that we have, and how much data they generate every day. And some of the data is actually already held by us individuals. Think about data you get from your Fitbit device or smartwatch or your cell phone. There's also another segment of data that you can get by exercising your GDPR or CCPA rights. The problem for individuals now is that retrieving that data, be it from your personal device or from third-party service provider, might take some time. And actually, there are very few tools that we individuals have to get insights from the data or activate in any way that data. There is also one misconception that we often hear. When people refer to selling data, actually people frequently mean something more complex. Selling refers to not data, raw data, but actually derived products that are based on data that is gathered by tracking user behavior. And these products are usually related to advertising, right? So the situation is much more complex than mere selling. Also, I think we have to emphasize that when we talk about the next steps or future of data privacy regulation and new services, many debates are really abstract. They're so generic and general that it's very hard to figure out what is the practical, tangible thing that should be done. So in the remaining part of my presentation, I would like to ask a very practical question. So if individuals could borrow the same logic which was used by large technology companies like Facebook, Google, Apple, with regard to the use of personal data, what kind of product, what kind of value can we generate? In other words, how can we generate value from personal data for individuals? So let's take a look at personal health. Right, so many of us already have those smart devices at home, various sensors, cell phones, and so on. So what if we could combine all of this data that is generated currently at this time from those different sources into one spot? And what could we get out of this kind of data? So first thing is that we should ask about insights from personal data. What if we could combine, for example, activity data measured by your cell phone and smartwatch and sleeping data that comes from your Oura ring? What kind of insights could you get by correlating your sleeping patterns with your activity during the day? Rather simple example. Another example, what if you could connect your heart rate data with your geolocation and map out where your heart is beating faster while you're walking down the street. A number of insights could be also received from different sources by collecting other types of data. And they could help individuals also make better decisions about their behavior. And based on the insights they get from different devices, they could also set different kind of nudging and incentive schemes. The value from data that we already possess and are able to get from our smart watches and devices, it could be augmented by combining it with publicly available data. Very simple example, think about public weather forecasts and all of the automated settings at your home, which you could probably create by combining this public data and home-based sensors. So the opportunities in terms of combining different data sources are truly immense and endless. So how do we get there? here I would like to briefly describe about one concept, which is personal data cloud. So by personal data cloud, I refer to either your online personalized data storage place or your even edge device like your cell phone. So now you can already get and collect your master copies of your personal data in this personal data cloud. This personal data cloud or personal device is truly yours. It's completely personal and no one else has access to it. So all of the data belongs to you and it's your personal asset. And we see how new types of applications could be built on top of that personal data that actually resides in your personal data cloud. So new types of applications will run on top of your personal data. And this application, let's say new type of data application, will not send data out of your personal data cloud, whereas everything will be processed, the whole data will be processed locally. So we can see how individuals could be empowered by their personal data. And we can also see that new data applications based on this local data storage could open endless opportunities for entire developer community. So I would like to leave you with 3 takeaway thoughts. So there is this dilemma, right? Should we have more data or more privacy? But would it be possible actually to have both? And I think in the future, if we are trying to think about where the ecosystem is heading, probably it's possible to think about new data models where both the huge amount of data that is generated could be also connected with more privacy. The second thought I would like to challenge you with is what is the opportunity that could be derived from value asymmetry in current data ecosystems? So nowadays we see how companies are actually utilizing consumer and customer data for their personal products. If you think about the future, wouldn't it be feasible to think about more user-centric goods and services where individuals are able to provide access to their personal data to service providers and get more value? And thirdly, if you think about this concept of having your personal data with you, what is the next step from insights? I think by empowering individuals with their personal data, we can start discussing about concepts of personal AI. So on the top of those personal data, there are various applications and nudges and incentive systems and personal assistants that could be built. So as an individual consumer, I would like to ask you to think, what kind of data would you entrust your personal AI assistant with? And what kind of tasks would you ask this personal assistant to do? So that's all for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Paulius, once again for being with us here today, irrespective of the fact that you have the deep night in your time zone. So thank you once again. And I would probably just briefly ask you one quick question. So yeah, you have mentioned about data being sold allegedly, right? And then the volumes of the data that we leave behind, the digital trace we leave behind. So, and this behavioral tracking is really becoming a huge issue and huge trend today. So could you recommend 3 top actions or 3 top tools that we could use in order to minimize our digital footprint and the effect it has to it?
So
maybe just a simple click of Facebook, turn off and something like that. What do you do yourself?
I think on this point, we can see that there are many services that are being created nowadays. First of all, they are actually helping consumers to manage their consents. So I don't even mention any service providers or companies, but there are so many startups that are helping consumers to handle their data and basically utilize some of the technical tools that help individuals to, manage how third-party service providers are accessing and utilizing data. So basically exercising GDPR CCPA rights using certain tools. So I think there are many of those. You just go online and Google, and there are plenty of opportunities. But I think the next thing is, I would like to not, it's not like a solution, but as a tool, try and reach out to some of the service providers. Google, Facebook, all of any kind of data collectors, and try and exercise your right to get a copy of their data, of the data that these service providers have collected about you. And you will see what kind of response you will get. You will probably get a special format, a special zip file, and think whether this is actually useful and what could be done with that data from the personal user point of view, right? What is missing to actually benefit and get value from that data? So my suggestion is that, rather than thinking about exercising GDPR CCP rights, think about what kind of value you can get once you are able to collect that data with you, and what kind of combinations you can think of. There are so many crazy applications you can imagine. What if you could collect, very simple example, what if you could combine your Netflix, YouTube, and Hulu history, watch history with IMDb data? What kind of recommendations would you get? So I would encourage thinking about these topics, because this will be probably the biggest breakthrough in data privacy innovation landscape.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's probably not worth going into deeper discussions about those you mentioned. There are a lot of startups which could help you in repossessing your data. I'm not sure if we can really trust all the startups, and then probably it's not the right time to go into deeper discussions on that, but we'll definitely catch up on this, and I will definitely pass on if the audience has any questions for you after your presentation. So thank you very much once again, Paul, for being with us here today. Good night, sleep well. Now you did your job.